Wolof. He sings in English, and he sings or has sung about such things as going to the strip club and um, selling drugs and being in prison, and that has gotten him accolades and a position in the urban or hip hop music scene. But then going into Senegalese, oh, Senegalese traditional music. It's easier for us to view this and the way they're dressed, minus the saxophone, of course, and the drums, for us to see that as their culture and distinct from people would assume. People assume. Once again, we see something like a banjo different from um, African American culture. But now we're going to go back to this instrument here. Not this one, which is a kora, but rather this one called a halam. So we have this halam, and then we have a cigar box guitar. Images. Going to say booze. And then we have image of somebody with a cigar box guitar. And then we have blues. Fiddle. And then we're going to go up here and we're going to see one string fiddle. We can find an image of one. But we have different one string fiddles. This is a West African one string fiddle. And then we have, let's see, one string fiddle blues. Let's see what I get here. I might not be able to find it, but cigar box violin. If I can find, I saw it before, but anyways, the reality of it is that the way Akon sings, not so much what he sings, is African. His style of singing is not different from Amadou and Miriam. You listen to the way they sing and the way Akon sings, it's the same, although they're singing in French. It's not different from the way Ali Farka Touré sang. The style and Vo Farka Touré sings. I mean, he covers his, I think it was his uncle, Ali Farka Touré's uh, song, I Do. So now, this is something that, let's say, what Islam gave the blues. This one is more, perhaps more I don't know if to say if this is controversial, but it's a more interesting topic. There is growing evidence that the blues, as a genre, was influenced by the Islamic call to prayer and chants by African Muslim slaves who were taken to America. This theory inspired me to create a photography project on the subject. May 11th, 2021. This is about something from somebody put this on Vimeo. And this is another one from renovatio.zaytuna.edu. By the way, I am not a Muslim, but nevertheless, blues. The blues is neither African nor Islamic. Rather, it's an African American creation shaped by some of the most enduring contributions of West. What Islam gave the blues. Is it going to let me actually read the article? That I don't know. Sometimes the scroll bar doesn't allow me to do that, but that is the image of Sylviana Doof. And it looks like it's not letting me see what I want to see. Let's see. This is whatever. Okay, so the blues born in the deep south conjures up images of cotton fields, oppressed sharecroppers, chain gangs, pain, and lonesomeness. When one thinks about a music so embedded in rural African American culture, Islam certainly does not come to mind. Yet it should become Yet it should, because some of the deepest roots of the blues grew not in the Mississippi Delta, but thousands of miles away in the Islamic belt of West Africa. Islam had been known in West Africa since the 8th century through contacts with Berber and Arab merchants and clerics from the north. The religion started to spread in Senegal and Mali at the beginning of the 11th century, carried by local traders, scholars, and clerics. Its reach soon expanded from the banks of the Senegal River in the west to the shores of Lake Chad in the east. Malian traders and clerics introduced it to northern Nigeria in the 14th century. You see, that's the picture again. Henry Osawa Taylor, showing the old guy, see, Sylvian Juf, showing the old guy teaching his grandson, probably I'm going to say it's his grandson, how to play the banjo. Well, the Muslim world, which at times extended from Portugal to China, was a global marketplace of ideas and goods, and West Africa was part of it. Islamic music in Africa. As in many other Muslim lands, Sufism, the mystical side of Islam, spread widely in West Africa. One of its distinctive features was and still is music, viewed as a means to bring an individual or group closer to God. Music as an integral part of Sufi life, following the injunction of the Hadith. Adorn the Quran with your voices. Members of Sufi orders routinely chant the Quran and religious hymns. Supplications are also a genre, consisting of prayers chanted in an emotional way. Another genre is the high art of tilawa, the recitation of the Quran performed by specialists who follow strict rules of pronunciation and intonation and always chant solo. Although Islamic traditions do not consider the recitation of the Quran and the call to prayer as singing, both are nevertheless melodic. Strong trembling sounds, melisma, changing the note of a syllable while it is being sung, wavy intonations, elongated notes, long pauses between sentences, glissandos, and a certain nasality are characteristic features of reciting and singing in the Islamic world. So, those are things, if you pay attention to the way Akon vocalizes, you'll see that he does those things. As an as ethnomusicologist Bruno Netto described it, Middle Eastern singing is tense sounding and has a harsh, throaty nasal tone with a certain flatness. Unsurprisingly, music was among the cultural exchange that took place between North Africa and the Western Sahel. defined here as the area stretching from Senegal slash Gambia to northern Nigeria. Music in North Africa was distinctly different from music in the Middle East, having been influenced by the indigenous black populations living in the southern parts of the Maghreb and later by non Muslim victims of the trans Saharan slave trade, often employed as musicians. These enslaved West Africans brought their music and rhythms to North Africa. In Western Sahel, especially in the urban zones, Muslims adapted, and transformed the Islamic musical style. Much cross fertilization occurred on both sides of the desert. In the Muslim areas of West Africa, the lowest caste of professional musicians attached to courts or wealthy families developed a repertoire of genealogies, praise songs, and epics. They sang solo or sometimes in groups in a declamatory style with wavy inflections, melisma, humming, tremolo, or vibrato, and throbbing or quavering effects. This style, centuries old, continues to be heard in contemporary music. Professional singers accompany themselves or are accompanied by musicians playing string instruments such as lutes, one-string fiddles, the kora, a 21-string harp, and xylophones. Musical musicologist Gerard Kubik places this model into larger context of music in the Islamic world. Stylistically, the music played in the West African savanna hinterlands, such as, for example, on certain string instruments, especially the long neck lutes, khalam, garaya, etc., and one string fiddles, goge, goje, riti, etc., is characterized by the predominance of pentatonic tuning patterns, the absence of the concept of asymmetric timeline patterns, a relatively simple motional structure lacking complex pilot rhythm, but using subtle, offbeat accents and a declamatory vocal style with wavy intonation, melisma, raspy voices, heterophony, I guess multiple sounds, and so on. Different sounds, hetero like different. Some of these characteristics are, of course, shared with the broader realm of Islamic music. Even when this type of music involves drums, it is clearly distinct from the music of the African coastal and forest areas. It is characterized by a strong reliance on drums, bells, rattles, polyrhythm, collective participation, and call and response, and is found in the southern parts of Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Benin, and Nigeria, as well as West Central Africa from Gabon to Congo and Angola. So there were two different types of music that were performed in West Africa. African diaspora and African American music. Starting in the early 1500s, the transatlantic slave trade deported an estimated 12.5 million men, women, and children from West Africa, from West and Central Africa. Hundreds of thousands of Muslims were among them. Wherever they landed, Africans brought their music, and with time, they and their descendants developed numerous new genres throughout the Caribbean and South America, from Brazil to Cuba, Uruguay